Is Kent Hughes about to orchestrate the most magical Christmas week in Montreal Canadiens history by acquiring Philip Danault, Stuart Skinner, and potentially even Sidney Crosby from a struggling Pittsburgh Penguins organization? If you blinked over the weekend, you missed everything. The calm before Christmas transformed into a storm of activity in Kent Hughes' office. To start Monday, December 22nd, 2025 the right way, let's address the elephant in the room immediately. Philip Danault is back. What was rumor on Friday became official minutes before the roster freeze. The Montreal Canadiens sent a second-round draft pick via Columbus to the Los Angeles Kings and brought the prodigal son home. But the front office's appetite didn't stop there. With the team facing a technical crisis in goal, eyes now turn to the Pittsburgh Penguins, where an available goaltender and a living legend might be the next targets. The goaltending crisis is the most concerning development of the weekend, and it's not about a trade. It's about an absence. Samuel Montembeault, Montreal's starting goaltender, did not make the trip to Pennsylvania. The coaching decision was to leave him in Montreal to work exclusively with goaltending coach Marco Marciano. In hockey speak, that translates to, your technique is broken down, and we need to fix it immediately. This is damage control, and it's urgent. With Montembeault sidelined for repairs, young Jakub Dobes was thrown to the Wolves to start against the Penguins. The old hockey saying applies perfectly here. If you have 3 goaltenders, you have none. Montreal is caught in goaltending purgatory with Montembeault struggling, Caden Primo inconsistent, and Dobes still developing. That's not a sustainable situation for a team trying to compete. This is where Stuart Skinner enters the picture. Skinner, the former Edmonton Oilers goaltender, is currently on the Pittsburgh Penguins roster in this timeline. Reports indicate that Penguins GM Kyle Dubas is willing to move him because he has other young goaltenders in the pipeline waiting for opportunities. For Montreal, Skinner offers playoff experience and a low-cost acquisition to stop the bleeding while Montembeault recovers his form. He's not a long-term solution, but he's a proven professional who can stabilize the position immediately. But while Danault solves the defense and Skinner would address goaltending, the attack dreams of the impossible. Analyst Tony Marinaro didn't mince words this weekend. With the Penguins struggling to stay relevant and Sidney Crosby entering the penultimate year of his contract, Marinaro declared, "If they fall out of playoff contention, I'm betting the house he gets traded." And where would number 87 go? Montreal would undoubtedly be the favorite. The narrative is almost too perfect. Crosby grew up as a Montreal Canadiens fan. The story of him ending his career guiding the rebuild of his childhood team is too powerful to ignore. It's the kind of emotional narrative that transcends hockey and becomes part of sports lore. Think about the connection with Danault's return. Danault liberates Nick Suzuki from purely defensive responsibilities. If Crosby were to arrive in this fantasy scenario, Montreal's center depth would be Crosby, Suzuki, and Danault. That's a championship spine. That's the kind of center depth that allows you to deploy your best players in optimal situations. You can match Crosby against the opponent's top line, freeing Suzuki to focus on offense. You have Danault as the shutdown specialist. That's organizational depth at the position that wins Stanley Cups. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's focus on what's already confirmed. Philip Danault is back. The cost was remarkably low, just a second-round pick in 2026, the one that came from Columbus. That's an eerie Surrey price for an elite defensive center. Danault returns to be the mentor, the defensive shield, and the leader who takes pressure off the young players. He knows the market. He knows the pressure. He chose to return, or at least accepted the destination gracefully. That matters. The impact of Danault's arrival cannot be overstated. He immediately improves Montreal's defensive identity. He provides veteran leadership in a locker room full of young players. He allows Suzuki to focus more on offense. He mentors Owen Beck and other young centers on how to play the right way. He's the kind of player who makes everyone around him better through his professionalism and commitment to the process. Now the question becomes, is Pittsburgh the next target? Kyle Dubas has a team struggling to compete. He has veteran assets that might be available if the Penguins fall out of playoff contention. Stuart Skinner is clearly available, and if things deteriorate further, even Sidney Crosby might become available, though that will require an unprecedented set of circumstances. If Kent Hughes can acquire Stuart Skinner from Pittsburgh for a late-round pick, the week is saved. Montreal solves its immediate goaltending crisis. Montreal gets time to work with the coaching staff and recovers form. Skinner provides stability and playoff experience. That's a smart, pragmatic move that addresses a pressing need without mortgaging the future. If somehow, in some alternate universe, the Penguins fall completely out of contention and Crosby becomes available, and if he's willing to waive his no-movement clause to finish his career in Montreal, then Christmas lasts all year. That's the kind of move that transcends hockey and becomes part of franchise history. But that's fantasy territory. The reality is that Kent Hughes is active. He's already acquired Danault. He's clearly looking to improve the goaltending situation. The conversations with Kyle Dubas should be intense. The Penguins are desperate. Montreal is aggressive. The pieces are in place for more moves before the holiday break. Monday has delivered. Danault is confirmed. The goaltending market is open. The question now is how aggressive Hughes wants to be. Does he stop with Danault and wait for the next opportunity? Or does he strike again and acquire Skinner to stabilize the crease? The answer will define Montreal's trajectory heading into the new year. What do you think? Should the Canadiens pursue Stuart Skinner aggressively to solve the goaltending crisis? Or should they give Montreal more time to recover? And in your wildest dreams, would you want to see Sidney Crosby finish his career in Montreal? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And hit that like button if you think this is shaping up to be the most exciting Christmas week in Canadiens history.